So you want to shoot a cinematic video, you go out, start shooting and come back home, check back your footages, but it looks very shaky and un-cinematic. If yes, then you have come to the right place today, because I'm gonna be sharing 5 tips that I follow to shoot very smooth cinematic videos with just a phone without any gimbal. And I'll also show you one thing that you need to do while editing, just one click, and that will make your videos very stable. People won't be able to tell if it is shot with a gimbal or not. Now let me be very honest, shooting very stable footages with handheld without using any gimbal is almost impossible, but using software stabilization we can make those footages look very stable, you know, gimbal like. So keep watching till the end and I'll show you how to easily software stabilize your videos in the video editing software. And we are gonna be using Davinci Resolve, so it's free and anybody can use it. But for that to work while editing, you need to shoot your videos in a certain way. The 5 tips that I'm gonna be showing you right now is gonna be those tips that you need to follow while shooting to get a very stable cinematic videos. So let's get right on with it. Alright guys, tip number 1. Tip number 1 is actually very simple. All you have to do is assume that your upper body and your hands are one body part. Don't act as if they are separate body parts. What I want to say is, if you're holding your phone like this and you want to move left, then move your whole body towards the left. If you want to go right, move your whole body towards the right. So what this is going to do is it's going to give your movement more mass. So this movement is going to be more stable than actually moving your hands separately like this or like this, because your hands are going to be shaky. But if you give your whole body the movement, then it's going to be more stable. Now some things that you want to remember is try to keep the phone at medium distance, because if you extend your arms too far, it's gonna be unstable. If you keep it too close, you can't see anything on the screen and it will be difficult for you to frame the object. So keep it at a medium distance, try to see the object, frame it, and keep your hands and body stiff. Yeah, that's tip number 1, and you have to remember this because the rest of the tips will follow tip number 1. So tip number 1 is like the basic. So tip number 2 is for small movements. Maybe you want to give a small movement to your videos. So what generally people do is just extend their arms, but this is against tip number 1, because we have to make our hands and body as one body part. So if you want to make a small movement from here to here, decide our starting and ending point. So I know I'm gonna start from here and end here. So what I want to do is take one step forward and make myself comfortable with the end point. So I'm gonna reach this. So this is gonna be my end position, and I'm gonna come back to the starting position. So this is one body part, and I'm gonna slowly move forward like this. So this is going to be so much more stable than just moving your hands forward, because your hands gonna be shaking all the way. But if you do this, it's gonna be much more stable. So this is tip number 2. So you can apply this for any kind of movements, small movements, like maybe you want to zoom out of something, or maybe you want to zoom in, or maybe you are trying to go around something. Alright, now tip number 3. So what if you want to take longer movement shots? What if you want to take a walking shot of someone? Maybe you want to track your object for a longer time, maybe for a longer movement. Then what are you gonna do? Follow step 1 again. Hold your phone to a medium distance from your body. Next step is have a little lower center of gravity, because we are gonna be walking forward. Okay, instead of just standing straight and walking forward with the person like that, what we are gonna do is we are gonna have a little lower center of gravity, because the lower our center of gravity is, the less we are gonna shake. So we are gonna be more stable. So we're gonna have a little lower center of gravity and just go forward. Okay, and try to walk like a ninja. Try to walk in a very stable way. There is no right way to walk. There are some YouTubers who suggest that you walk with your toes, you know, tip toes. But what I have found is you can just walk normally with your heels and trying to keep your body very stable with a lower center of gravity, and that will work just fine. So tip number 4. So tip number 4 is for low angle shot. So I'm gonna explain this with an example. So maybe you want to take a shot of something which is at this height, and what most people do is they just do not go down. What they do is they bend and take shot like this, or maybe something like this, or like this, or any kind of movement that you want to do. But the thing is, you should never bend. What you should do is you should go down. Just come down, don't bend. You're not a grandma. Just come down completely and keep the object at your eye level. Don't bend like this. Come down and keep the object at your eye level, and this is going to create more stability in your footages. How you want to take the shot is have a strong foothold. You don't want to be unstable. You should hold a firm ground. If you can, try keep one of your knees down. Maybe you should be very stable, your body. And you remember tip number 1, your hands and body should be one body part. Now you can take the shot very easily. You can have maybe a forward movement or maybe a rotational movement which looks cinematic. And yeah, that is tip number 4. Go down, keep your knees on the floor if you can. Try to hold a strong foothold with both of your legs and take the shot following tip number 1. That's for tip number 4. Let's move on to tip number 5. So now tip number 5 is actually the most simple, but you need to combine all of the tips that I've showed you before in tip 1, 2, 3 and 4. So tip number 5 is to use your fingers to rotate the phone. When you use your body and your hands like one body part and you're gonna move the whole body, you cannot cover great angles, you cannot cover greater angles. So maybe you want to reveal the scenery, from bottom to up, and reveal the scenery. You can't do that nicely and very quickly with your whole body because you cannot cover a great angle. So you can use your fingers very precisely while you're moving up like this to actually not fingers, your wrist and your fingers combined. So maybe you're trying to reveal a scenery from a very low angle, so you can't do that like this, right? It's not going to work. So what you want to do is rotate with your fingers and wrist while you're moving forward. So like this, as you can see, I'm following tip number 1 and tip number 4. Tip number 4 was go down. Do not, I could have taken the shot like this, but it's not the way to do it. You have to go down. And tip number 1, keep your hands and body very stiff. And tip number 5, rotate while going forward. Okay, and this is going to create a very cinematic scenery reveal shot that I use a lot in my videos. So those were the 5 tips that you can do while shooting your videos to get a lot of stability. But to give your videos gimbal-like stabilization, we will software stabilize it in Davinci Resolve 16. So I have Davinci Resolve 16 open already, and I have a clip already in the media pool. Let's play the footage and you can see how shaky the footage is. So let's drag it to our timeline and stabilize it. So we don't need the audio, let's delete it. And to stabilize it, all you need to do is just select the clip and go to the inspector tab right here. So it might be off for you, but if it is off, just click on it and all the settings will show up. But we don't need these settings, all we need is this stabilization right here. So keep this on and double click on the stabilization and we will get these settings. We don't need to mess up with the settings. All we need to do is just click on the stabilize button and it will automatically stabilize our video. So let's click this stabilize button, and now it's analyzing and it will start stabilizing our videos. Now our footage is stabilized, and let me play it for you guys and show you how stabilized the footage is now. As you can see, the footage is much more stabilized than before, and just by doing this we are good to go. We can move on with our edit. But for some reason, if it doesn't work, we have all these settings to change and we can customize the settings and see what works for us. So by default, all the settings are really good. This is perspective mode, which is like warp stabilization in Premiere Pro. But if it doesn't work for you, we can change it to similarity, which uses different algorithm for stabilization. And there is also another mode, which is translation. So change the mode and try to stabilize your videos and see if it works or not. But the best mode is perspective mode, and if it works with perspective, then it works. Otherwise, if it doesn't work with perspective, then there are very less chances of your video getting stabilized with these other 2 modes, because these other 2 modes are little less advanced mode of stabilization. And there are some more settings that you can change in perspective mode, like this cropping ratio. So this will change the amount of crop that it will give to your videos. You can change the smoothness of the movement of your stabilization, and strength is maximum by default, and I suggest you keep it at maximum.
But for some reason, if you don't want the intensity of your stabilization to be max, you can just change it. And yeah, every time you change any of the settings, you need to hit stabilize again to stabilize your footage. And always keep these two settings as it is: zoom turn on and camera lock turn it off. And yeah, that is how you stabilize your videos and make it look like gimbal shot, even though you have shot the video handheld.
So yeah, that is how you can take very stable cinematic shots with just a phone without using any gimbal, or at least that is how I do it. I don't know about others. And before ending this video, I want to make this clear that these techniques that I showed you just now might not be possible in every situation. This software stabilization doesn't work always. Sometimes it just doesn't work. So you should not be completely dependent on software stabilization. And the 5 tips that I showed you may also not be possible in every situation according to your shot. You might have to adapt according to your situation and the type of shot that you want. So don't try to just copy exactly that I showed, but try to adapt and change it or modify it according to your situation. And also comment below if you want to see how I color grade my videos. I use Davinci Resolve to color grade my videos, so I might make a video about it next time. I hope you learned something from this video and it will really help you in the cinematic videos that you are going to shoot. And you can support me through Buy Me a Coffee. So Buy Me a Coffee is a website where you can donate to creators. So if you can support, do check the link in the description below. Click on the link and you can buy me a coffee, and that will really motivate me to create more and more videos for you guys like this. And yeah, that's it guys. Thank you so much for watching. Follow me on Instagram if you haven't already, junkfilms07, and like this video, share it, subscribe, and you guys keep creating, and I will see you guys in the next one.